Okay. Let me get this browser up. So today we will be doing some advanced Python 3 database operations. I'm going to be rushing it. I'm going to try to complete it in an hour. Usually it takes me about around 2 hours, honestly, to do it, because I like to take my time with it. But this time I'm going to try to kind of gun through it as fast as I can. Although honestly, I'm a pretty slow worker, so I will probably take a little bit. But last time I did this, I took my time. I am not going to take my time this time. But this is also databases. Honestly, I don't really like working with databases. Like I studied it a lot in college. By a lot, I mean like took a few classes, but just like it wasn't something I particularly enjoyed. Like I understand concepts and I like the concepts of it, but I don't know. Like when I make databases, I like to set it up once and forget about it. Anyway, SQL. Let's see. Will find themselves working with APIs other than external applications. In this lesson, we'll learn how to work with SQL databases from Python environment. In this case, we'll work with SQLite. It's a relational database with database that organizes information into one or more database tables. These data tables contain many fields and records. Below is an image of a data table where we see fields and records. Fields is the columns or attributes of the table. Records are the rows or observations associated with each field. You know, these specifics, I don't remember learning it. the specific names of it. Whatever. The next image is a database from SQL Relational Database. This is customer data table where the fields are first name, last name, phone number, email, and address, IP, ID. Cool. All right. You know what? Let's make this a bit wider. Why use Python to access SQLite? Let's discuss SQLite. SQLite is a lightweight disk-based database, meaning we store data on a hard drive or other type of local storage. Many people use SQLite because it doesn't require a separate server process. So programmers can edit or retrieve data using non-standard forms of SQL query language. It can also be useful to prototype an application and transfer the code to larger database, such as Oracle or PostgreSQL. I don't know what that is. Okay. Additionally, applications such as Python can use SQLite for internal data storage. How can Python access SQLite? Thanks to Python Database API DB-API 2.0, we can connect Python to RDBMS, relational database management system like SQLite. The database API allows a Python user to access a database file, which is the file type for SQL using the module SQLite. I have used SQLite before, only on one occasion though. I actually use it for, I'll be honest, I don't know if it's working right now. It doesn't look like it is. I'm gonna have to reset it, but no one ever used it, so it's whatever. But I'll just do a quick test. Yeah, it's not working. I know how to fix it. I just don't feel like doing it right now. But essentially, I have a screensaver game where it's like a corner war situation, where if you hit the corner, the viewer gets their name on my stream. I'm not popular enough for it to be really a thing. It's fair enough. But it was a fun game. I used SQLite to save the usernames of the current winners, more or less. And consider I'm the only one who really plays it, that's why my name is on it. I could remove myself, I just haven't done that. So, yeah. Why use Python? Excellent data. Python is excellent at data manipulation. Once you pull SQLite and SQLite data into your Python environment, you can analyze, visualize change, and test this data all you want. Python has many data manipulation libraries, such as pandas. Ooh, pandas. So I'm talking about pandas? Anyone? Yeah? NumPy, Matplotlib, and more. Together, SQLite and Python make a great team. To your right is an image that can help explain how Python and SQLite function together. Python application, cool. Data request, fetch request, results. Okay. Wow, a lot of it is reading. Connect to SQLite in Python. Once you have SQLite reporting, you need to connect to the database. You can connect a few or to a new or pre-existing database with SQLite.connect API. Remember that an application reference is a simple way to communicate between applications. In this case, we want Python and SQLite to communicate with each other. This call will connect to the database with a given name. If database does not exist, we will create a new blank database. We can imagine our connection object as a cable that connects our Python environment to our SQLite database. Creating a cursor environment. With SQLite Connect, we have established a connection to the SQLite database. First.db. Next we need a way to call SQL statements to the data within the database. To do this, we use something called a cursor object. Using a cursor object, we can represent the database cursor, call statements to our SQLite database, return the data to our Python environment. We create a cursor object by using this cursor method from the connection class. If we imagine the connection object as a cable that connects Python to SQLite, the cursor uses the cable to move back and forth to send the message and exchange data between the two. Titanic datasets. For this lesson, you'll be learning using the Titanic.db database file containing data for each real Titanic passage. To your right, you will see a web browser that displays the data description for each field in Titanic.db. Create a connection object. Yes. on Titanic on execute SQL statements in Python. Nice work. Now we have connected to the Titanic.db database. We can execute SQL commands using the cursor object. To start a SQL command, also known as SQL statement, we must attach the .execute method to your cursor object as such, cursor.execute. Create a table. Let's go over a few simple SQL commands. The SQL command create table creates a new table in the connection database. Look at this example below. Creating a cursor object. Execute. In the code above, we will use the .execute method with the curs object to create a table named toys. Inside the parentheses is a list. The first word in each item is the name of the field, and the second word identifies the type of the field. The first field in the toys table is called ID. Its data type is integer. To understand more about these data types, you may click here. Additionally, we use the triple quoted string, the SQL command string stretched across multiple lines. We recommend always using triple quoted or around the SQL statement to avoid any possible errors. After creating a data table, we may want to insert the data. To do this, we must use SQL command insert into table name values. Here is an example. Into toys values. This line of code add a row of data, which is the ID, the name, the price, and the type. So the ID, the name, the price, and the type of toy, action toy. This line of code added to the row, to the toys table. Notice that the list is set up in the same order that we created the fields. The module SQLite 3 connection to the Titanic DB database and cursor object are in the code to your right. Create a table using create table command. Name this table new table and include the field name, age, username, and pay rate. The field types are text, integer, text, and real, respectively. So, name, age, username, and pay rate. It's text, integer, username is text, and then the last one is real. And these are not called toys, these are called new table. Right? Yeah. There we go. Using the SQL command insert into table name values. Insert this row, Bob Peterson 34. Okay, let's copy and paste it. Insert into a new table with the values. Insert multiple rows with execute many. Great job. Now you can create SQLite data table and insert their single row. Let's insert multiple rows of data with execute many method. In the example below, an object new students contain a list of rows we want to insert. These rows follow the same schema of the already existing students table. This last line of code uses the same SQL command insert into table name values that we used in the previous exercise. However, within parentheses, there is a list of question marks. There's a list of question marks that act as a field placeholder. The 5 question marks represent each of the 5 fields in the database we are inserting values into. Lastly, we include the object new students at the end of the execute many method. Okay. Interesting. The module SQLite 3 connection and object and cursor object are already in your text editor. Notice that the object new rows is in your text editor. New rows is a tuple list with rows of data that you will insert into new table. Using execute many method, insert new rows into the table. Let's copy that. Occurs execute many. Object new rows. One, two, three, four. There we go. Retrieving data. Now that you know how to create an SQLite table, you're ready to retrieve existing data. As mentioned earlier, Python is excellent at analyzing, visualizing, manipulating, and testing data. For this reason, you will pull SQLite data into your Python environment. SQL commands used for data retrieval. For all data retrieval methods in this exercise, you will need to use the SQL command select. What do you call that? Star? Shit. Select star, or just all, yeah, that selects all. Select star from table name to identify which table in the database you will be pulling database data from. .fetch one method. The first method used for data extraction is the fetch1 method. This method, in combination with cursor.execute, will fetch one row of the table. Specifically, it will pull the first row of the data table. Here an example below. This will output a tuple representing the row. If you want to pull more than one row, you can use the fetch many method. This method will return the first set of specified rows. first 3 sets. Interesting. This will output a list of tuples where each tuple is a separate row. Fetch all method is the last fetch method, fetch all, and it does just that. It fetches every row of the data from the data table. Use fetch 1 to pull the first row of Titanic table using from titanic.db database. Make sure that's the problem. Yep. Okay. Okay. First 10 rows. I love this Pokemon song. It's so chill. Anyway. Object 10. For those who survived, Jesus. Jesus Christ. Okay. Use fetch all method to retrieve all passengers who survived from the Titanic data table. Object all survived. Wait. Or survive. Cool. Using loops with SQLite. We used the fetch methods. We can also use a for loop to retrieve data. Following code will iterate through each row in the student's table and print each row where the grade field is pass. You can also use a for loop to iterate through a table and calculate a measurement. Calculate a sum. Got it. Let's walk through this example code. We use SQL statements to retrieve the major code field from the student's table. We create a variable sum, initialized at 0 to sum up the total. Iterate through every number in the major code to create the mean, average, major code. We add num0 to sum at each iteration. Note that num is a tuple of length 1, such as parentheses 12, comma. So num0 will allow us to access the actual integer. We find the average by dividing the sum and the length of the major codes. The module SQLite 3 connection object, cursor object are already in your text editor. The object age, which is also in your text editor, includes a list of every age from the passengers of the Titanic data table. Create a variable named sum, set it equal to 0. So you'll use the sum. Sum equals 0. You'll use the sum all passengers below the age of 18. Create a for loop through each age in the tuple and count the number of people who are younger than 18 in your loop. You should use an if statement to check if each age is within the age range. Increment sum by 1 each time there is a passenger less than 18 years old. Is that really a sum? Isn't that an account? What? This doesn't matter. Details? I guess there isn't. Whatever. Committing changes and closing the database connection. Nice job. We have learned how to create, insert, edit, and pull specific data from the SQLite database. However, we need to learn one of the most important methods. We must create or edit a data table using SQLite. we must use the commit method to save any alteration made to the database. If we do not commit these changes, they can be lost. Okay. In an example above, a row was inserted into the toys data table and then immediately following, committed the alteration to the database. Committing the changes ensures that that others who view the database will also see these changes. Notice that we use the commit method in combination with the connection object. Closing the connection. Once we have committed all changes, we may close the connection to the database with the close method. This will ensure that we do not edit the wrong database next time we use SQLite. Notice again, we use the closed method with the connection object. The module SQLite 3 connection object and cursor object are already in your text editor. Use the SQL commands insert into data table values to insert this row. Stephanie Brody 37, Steph 30 into new table. I didn't commit the changes yet, so. Okay. Congratulations, you have completed your journey through the database operations with Python. Let's reflect on everything we learned in this lesson. SQL, which stands for Structured Query Language, is a programming language designed to manage data storage in relational databases. Once you pull the SQLite data into your Python environment, you can analyze, visualize, change, and test this data. You can also edit a new or pre-existing SQLite database directly from a Python environment by connecting to the database using SQLite 3 Connect API. In this database, a cursor allows us to traverse the data one row at a time, called statements and call statements and return data. We can create a cursor object using the cursor method. Using the execute method in combination with a create clause, we can create a table using SQLite database. Using the execute method and insert clause, we can insert data into a pre-existing table. To insert multiple rows at once, we can use the execute many method. To retrieve SQL data, SQLite data, we can use the fetch method. And there are three options. A Python for loop can be used to retrieve SQLite data. It can be used to analyze already pulled data. After making changes to the SQLite database, we must commit these changes using commit method. When finished editing the SQLite database, commit the changes. We can use the close method to close the database connection. For SQLite. Alright. Create a connection object named con that connects to the Titanic DB database. Con equals something like that. Connect. Retrieve the row where username equals step from new table. 30 more minutes. Yeah, this will take about an hour and a half. Okay. Analyze hotel database with Python. Sleepaway Incorporated, a hotel corporation, has just hired you as a data analyst. They would like you to analyze their most recent data about customers who canceled their booking and customers who did not cancel. It is your job to connect Sleepaway's SQLite database so you can edit and analyze the hotel booking database. The company wants to learn about the BRA customers, Brazilian customers, who canceled their bookings, compared to the Brazilian customers who did not. To do this, you will create a new data table in their database that only has the Brazilian customer hotel bookings. Once you create this table or new table and fill it with the BRA data, you will analyze it and report back to Sleepaway Incorporated. Lastly, don't forget to commit these changes to the database and close the connection. The Hotel Booking DB database has a data table called Booking Summary, which consists of their booking information from the year 2017. Here's a field description from the Booking Summary data table. There's a lot of data. Connect the hotel. Yes, okay. Next, you must create a cursor. Now that you're connected to the database, let's look at let's look at some of the actual rows. Using fetch one method, view the first row from the booking summary table. Yeah. There you go. You better understand the data for more than one row. I'm not doing 10. Now they looked at some records using booking summary. Pull all records with the Brazilian country of origin. Create an SQL statement. The fetch all method. There's probably a better way of doing that. No. Okay, cool. Just want to double check. Okay. Not even halfway done yet. Let's insert into. No, it's not done yet, but I had to save. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. Four, 8, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Sleepaway Incorporated would like to compare the average lead time, number of days elapsed between the entering date of the booking and the arrival date of those who canceled and those who did not cancel. Retrieve the rows from the column lead time where the customer canceled their booking. Pull this data from the raw customers table using the fetch all method. You will use the SQL command select from and where. Remember, the field is canceled. There's 1 if canceled and 0 if they're not canceled. Be sure to save these rows as new objects, such as lead time can. Oh no. Found the problem finally. almost done. Oh my god, this took hours. Oh, it should be fetch many. Oops. Next is concurrency. I'll see if I have time to do that this week. More learning, more learning for the week, who knows. But right now, I'm gonna take a quick break, just 5-10 minutes. I'm gonna refill my water, and then we will get to some Sekiro. All right. All right, so yeah, I'll be right back. I will end stream for YouTube. Thanks, YouTube. Oh, Steven. Hey, what's up? Okay.